We are Frank and Daphne, two not-so-young retirees from Canada who developed a love for cycle touring fairly late in life. In 2022, we decided to do a ride that would take us across Europe from the North Sea to the Adriatic. The route we planned started in Amsterdam, where we'd head west to dip our toes in the North Sea along the Netherlands coast, then follow the River Rhine upstream on EuroVelo 15 into Germany, a little bit of France and Switzerland, as far as Lake Constance. Here we'd leave the Rhine, switch to EuroVelo 6 and follow the River Danube from the Black Forest as far as the city of Passau in Germany. Then we'd leave the Danube and head in a southerly direction through Austria. This section is actually a little piece of EuroVelo 7. Then in Salzburg, we'll pick up the popular Alps to Adriatic cycle trail, locally known as the Cyclovia Alpe Adria Radweg, which will lead us through the Alps, across the border into Italy and down to the Adriatic coast at a little town called Grado, about 100 kilometers east of Venice. So we hope you'll come along with us on the ride and join our adventure and see how we get on as we share this journey over several episodes. It was exciting to be preparing for another cycle tour in Europe after a couple of years of fairly restricted travel. We flew to Amsterdam on May 3rd, got the bikes assembled outside the airport, and set off to navigate the city's extensive cycle path network into the city centre, where we had a hotel booked. We planned to spend a couple of days exploring the city, which I had never been to before. So we've just left Schiphol Airport and we're riding into downtown Amsterdam along the cycle route. So it's Friday morning and we're at our hotel, pretty much all packed up and about to hit the road. It was May 6th when we rode out of Amsterdam to begin our quest to ride to the Adriatic Sea via a rather circuitous route through Europe. We're aiming for the coast, but not directly, as we first want to see the city of Haarlem and then ride through the tulip growing area south of that city. It may be past the peak growing season, but we think we can still see a lot of flowers. So far we're about 7 kilometers from central Amsterdam on a lovely cycleway. The pathway network in Amsterdam is amazing for cyclists. Still on our way to Haarlem. Nice open pathways now, less crowded. We're actually within Haarlem city limits now. Just a few kilometers to Haarlem centre. It sounds like Haarlem would be worthy of a much longer visit than we'll have time for. It was once a major North Sea trading port surrounded by a defensive wall, and it has a rich and turbulent history. It still has that medieval character with cobblestone streets and gabled houses. We're riding right into the Grootmarkt, which is considered to be the most beautiful urban square in the country. This city is the flower capital of the Netherlands, and it's in the centre of the bulb growing region, with bulb fields to the north and south of the city. So as we cycle to the south of the city now, we are hopeful that we'll get to see some of these flowers growing. These flower fields draw hundreds of thousands of visitors every spring, and I can understand why. We rode right past the famous Keukenhof Gardens, but we didn't stop. It looked very busy. By the late afternoon, we had arrived at our campground for the night, about 20 kilometres north of the Hague, tucked up against the sand dunes. We can't say anything too good about the food at the campground restaurant, but it did the job for today, and we were happy after our first day of the tour. Today, now that we're at the coast, we expect to connect up with EuroVelo 12, the North Sea route, which runs along the coasts of Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands and Belgium. Here in the Netherlands, this route is known simply as the coast route, which is one of several long-distance Dutch cycle routes. This is day 2, and we just started our ride this morning. And we've just left our campground and we're riding through the sand dunes, and we are about 14 kilometers north of the Hague. So we're heading down the coast in a southwesterly direction. So we've been riding now for about 12 kilometers from the campsite, and all on paths like this. Just beautiful. Lots of people out because it's a Saturday. Off in the distance ahead now I can see the high rises of the Hague. We are at the Hook of Holland on the north shore of the Rhine estuary. Lots of ships. So we rowed out to the end of the jetty and back, just because we could. And I suppose it seemed like the furthest point we could reach on the Rhine estuary. This is the last time we're going to see the ocean for a long time. Hopefully we'll get to see it in Italy. Hopefully we'll get to see the Adriatic if we make it there. It was around 6 o'clock by now as we headed in the direction of Rotterdam, and we were beginning to think about where we might stay for the night, when all of a sudden I heard a horrible crunching sound coming from my rear wheel. Something bad had just happened. The situation is I have completely busted my derailleur. And we are somewhere between the Hook of Holland and Rotterdam. And we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And we are... Frank is trying to shorten the chain and see if we can make the bike so I can ride it till we can get to a hotel. And... it's Saturday evening, so we probably won't be able to get it repaired till Monday. And a nice couple just stopped by, and they're going to come back with a vehicle to see if we need a ride to a hotel. That's the situation.
Okay.
We're going to get to know the Hook of Holland much better than we expected. My derailleur completely broke on my bike, and we were Frank was setting about repairing it. Well, the derailleur wasn't repairable, but he was going to break the chain, shorten the chain so that I could continue to ride so we could get to a hotel. And luckily a very nice man, Bob, and his wife, who were cycling, stopped and asked us if we needed some help, and they lived nearby. He came back in his car and made sure we were okay, and then he made a booking in a hotel for us in Hook of Holland, which he said was the best destination to go to. And then he drove beside us the whole way there to make sure we made it okay. And we've arrived at the hotel now, so we're going to spend 2 nights here, because of course we won't be able to get the bike repaired tomorrow. It's Sunday and everything's closed, but there are 2 bike shops up the street, so on Monday we can get the bike repaired. So yeah, so we might meet Bob hopefully again tomorrow, and maybe his wife. We've invited them to come for dinner or for coffee or something, so they were so nice, and we're so grateful to them. So, to cut a long story short, our unexpected stay at the Hook of Holland had a silver lining. We waited around town while the bike shop sourced out a part for the derailleur, the hanger for those who know about these things, and we're having it sent express from the supplier in Belgium. But it still hadn't arrived by our 5th day in town. And when all the hotels in town seemed to be fully booked, we relocated ourselves to the nearby campground. In the meantime, we did get together for dinner with Bob and Jose, who became like our guardian angels for the whole time we were there. It turns out the Hook is not short of interesting things to do and see, and as we toured around, we saw many remnants of its involvement in World War II. Also, the port area is fascinating, being part of the large port of Rotterdam, which is Europe's busiest and in the top 10 busiest ports in the world. We learned about some of the shipping activities and watched as all kinds of ships and tankers sailed up and down the two separate channels. We were able to take a ferry across to the further away dock to see up close some of the massive container vessels that are up to 400 meters long and view the high-tech loading docks. With still no bike on day 5, we had come up with a plan B. So with an experienced second-hand touring bike lent me by our kind bike shop manager Martin, we decided to get on with our tour and deal with exchanging the bikes when mine was ready. So on March 13th we set off again to pursue our route up the Rhine. This is our second time going by the Stena Line ferry to London, or Harwich. Hopefully better luck this time. And this is the location where my bike broke the other day, so from here on it's all new territory. These huge white metal gate structures that we can see to our right here are called the Maslankering, the Dutch word for storm surge barrier. When sea levels threaten to flood the port of Rotterdam, these massive gates close automatically, triggered by a sophisticated computer system. It's said to be one of the largest moving structures on Earth. We are in the town of Schiedam, to the west of Rotterdam. It's supposed to be very historical and pretty. Getting through the city of Rotterdam itself wasn't so bad. It was greatly aided by the excellent cycle lanes that have their own traffic lights sometimes. Although we did get a bit confused after we crossed over the big suspension bridge, which they call the Swan, trying to reconnect with the official EuroVelo 15 to head towards our next point of interest, Kinderdijk. We're finally left Rotterdam, and it's nice to be getting on quieter roads here. We're on our way to Kinderdijk Ferry. This little bike and pedestrian ferry took us across to the North Shore first, and then back over to the south by Kinderdijk, where we visited the UNESCO site known for its iconic 18th century windmills. There are 18 of them that form a water management network, very interesting to visit. A few of these windmills are actually open as museums, and there's also a main information centre. And there's lots of information on the history of Dutch flood control, which it's very expert at due to how much of its land is below sea level. We learned that EuroVelo 15 has a number of route variations. And if you look at the current EuroVelo 15 maps, they show the route at this point going in a more southerly direction towards Dordrecht. But another version I have in a guidebook shows the route continuing east from here along the River Lek. And our Dutch friends also recommended this route, so that's the one we're doing. This is the first riverboat we've seen. These people are all in looking at the windmills, obviously. The route along the Lek today was really enjoyable. The biggest surprise of all for me being the number of thatched houses. I had no idea that there were thatched roofs in the Netherlands. As evening approached, we did end up taking another little ferry to the north side of the river before the town of Schoonhoven and found a delightful campground called Camping Bovenstad on a farm run by a very kind lady. We're just approaching the town of Schoonhoven here on our left-hand side. Having just left our campground at the farm, had a lovely relaxing morning there. So we're going to follow on this side of the river, I think, for the rest of today. So Schoonhoven has a ferry across the river. This could have been one of our ferry options yesterday, but we took an earlier ferry a few miles back.
Straight cruising, headed for a bruising.
Still in Schoonhoven.
Watching
it's very pretty.
For number one. You gotta slow down. Look around you, son. Today is just a day and not tomorrow. Where you're going, you can.
What do you have there, Frank?
Fish. Something like fish and chips with some chips, but good sauce.
Beautiful countryside. Lots of ducks, geese, sheep, goats, little small farms.
Easy now.
Holy moly, it got really busy for a few minutes.
Hard working, so you can be deserving of the rest that you are given. You gotta slow down and look around you, son. Give a lot and live a little. Work with what you got. Where you're going, you can rest your head. Where you're going, brightness looks big. Where you're going, truth cannot be hid. You gotta get going. Easy now.
We're on the hunt for a campground. We're near a town with an unpronounceable name whose initials are WD. And We think there's a campground up here. Lots of orchards. And we did find a really nice campground here, just west of the town of Wijk bij Duurstede, where the campground owner was excited to be able to put the first pin in Western Canada on his world map of customers.
Easy now, you gotta get going. Easy now.
So this is the campground where we stayed last night, and what a gorgeous thatch roof, which seems to be quite common around here. And across the road on this farm they have, which I think is quite common here, a place where you can go and it's all automated and you can buy your fresh milk and eggs and yogurt, and they even have a coffee machine, and it's all self-service. Doesn't get much fresher than this. We got the news last night that my bicycle repair has been completed and arrangements have been made to have it delivered to us. So here is our friend Bob, our hero, who has just driven my bike all the way from the Hook of Holland to here. And wow, that was about an hour each way that Bob drove to do the bike exchange. This is a man we didn't even know till a week ago, and he really went out of his way to help us. My loaner bike had served me very well. It's actually a really nice Dutch brand of touring bike that I could have quite happily continued on, but now it's on its way back to the bike shop. Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Bob. We set off a bit late in the day, heading through the town whose name I have difficulty pronouncing. We cycled through its iconic windmill, the only drive-through mill in the country, and we were anticipating a hot ride with the forecast being 29 degrees. It's Sunday afternoon, so everybody's out cycling. We just left Amerongen and looks like we're in a national park. And we've just started to see for the first time official EuroVelo 15 signs and the Rhine route in Dutch. And this afternoon, Frank got to pay it forward a little bit by helping three ladies who were having a lot of trouble repairing multiple punctures. We cycled right by the Grebbeberg War Cemetery, located on a hill just east of Rennen. This is the resting place for 799 military personnel and one civilian who all lost their lives during the German invasion in May 1940. In the town of Wageningen, we decided to look for accommodation and ended up in Hotel de Wereld. This turned out to be a very interesting choice because we soon learned about the historical significance of this hotel in World War II. The dining room here was the site of the capitulation of the German troops on May 5th, 1945, that brought about the end of German occupation of the Netherlands. The agreement was made between German General Blaskowitz and the Canadian Allied Forces Lieutenant General Fuchs, and we had breakfast in that very room. This event is celebrated in the Netherlands every year on May 5th as the Liberation Day holiday, which we were able to be part of when we were in Amsterdam earlier on. So it's Monday morning and we're getting ready to leave the Hotel de Wereld where we stayed last night. So we've just left Wageningen and we're on our way to Arnhem, which is famous for a battle, the Battle of Arnhem. apparently the film A Bridge Too Soon is the story of that battle, which ended very badly for the Allied forces. We're in Arnhem. One day we'll take one of those river cruises. So we've left Arnhem and we're crossing the Rhine now. And there's a bit of a storm threatening. I think it's only going to be short-lived, this thunderstorm, I hope. We are now heading towards Durenberg, where I believe we will be taking a ferry across the river, and then we'll be very close to Germany. We're back riding on a dike again, and we shouldn't be that far from the ferry that'll take us across to Millingen and to Germany. So there's supposed to be a ferry here. I think it's just for pedestrians and cyclists maybe. Okay, so our navigation on Maps.me shows that there's a ferry crossing here. It looks kind of iffy. Frank's up there talking to a man. But we do have to get across this river Waal, W-A-A-L. Well, things get a little complicated with the Rhine in this area. We're really at the beginning of the Rhine Delta here, almost at the Netherlands-German border. And there is a split in the river which occurs at Millingen, with the northern branch being the Neder Rhine, or the lower Rhine, going on to be called the Lek further downstream. And the Waal, or Waal, is the southern branch. Although we missed the turn at the time, the official Rhine Radweg takes a ferry crossing over the Rhine earlier on, just south of Arnhem. But our navigation program was taking us further south to cross the Waal River and route us towards Millingen that way. However, it did turn out that that ferry only operates at weekends, so instead we're heading a bit further east to take a different ferry across the Neder Rhine. This should get us back on the north side of the Rhine and back to the official route, which we'll follow for a short distance before needing to take another pedestrian ferry to get back to the south side and the town of Millingen.
We have to go here. I can.
Oh, okay. Ah, right. So we don't cross the Waal or the Waal, we go and cross the Rhine.
Follow the Rhine.
The Rhine. Okay, so it's only another 1.5 kilometers to the other ferry. That didn't take long. I think we found our ferry. And I'm not looking at the river cruise boat. Well, we know we're on the official Rhine route now. It's called LF3A here. And we should be headed for a ferry. Yeah.
81, right?
Yeah, 81. So far so good. 50 kilometers done. Oh. Okay. This part is well signposted. Yeah, it is nice. We're back to the Rhine, which we'll be crossing again.
Ferry on the other side. There are some bikers waiting.
That's hopeful.
Yeah.
This is the Rhine. I'm not sure when we exactly crossed the border into Germany. And this is the Rhine just before it splits into its two branches, beginning the Delta region. Hey, there's our little ferry going back. So we are pretty much in Millingen now, and we're going to go find a supermarket and stock up on food and go find a campground. Okay, so we just stopped for groceries and we found out we are actually still in the Netherlands. We're very close to the German border. We haven't crossed yet. Frank has led us here. We think there's a campground. We're just on the outskirts of Millingen. Mini camping. Oh, yes. Mini camping on a farm. We have the whole campground to ourselves on this our last night in the Netherlands. Tomorrow we'll enter country number 2, Germany.